Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen. I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for those New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And Tom, before we get going, I want to talk about we always, especially in America, but I'm sure in other countries, we always make note of the fact that if you want to buy new tires and you mention it somewhere, there's suddenly tire ads all over your website. And, we've talked about that. I had some medical issues here, nothing that's going to cause me too big a deal. But I'm just amazed now since that happened. Like every time I open my Facebook now, there's someone inviting me to be part of a clinical trial.
Right.
Do I want to try this medicine or that medicine? Yeah. That's a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
That we've gotten to that point. Like people know too much information about us.
I know. And some people are worried about our privacy. It's already gone. Like we don't have any privacy anymore. There's cameras everywhere you go. You're right. Listening devices, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it cracks me up too, because I see oftentimes on Facebook, people will comment like they'll be militant about this. And yet the very next week they'll take these surveys where they'll say, come and join me in this. I think they're fun. I want to see what your answers are.
Yeah.
I want to just write in, folks, the reason you're doing these is because they're trying to accumulate more data points on you.
Yeah.
Like, they may be fun to you, but they're being done for a reason.
Right.
So,
and then at some sites on the web too, they give you the option, can other apps track what you're doing on that app? Like they tell you have the option to let that happen or not. Like, why would you, right? But
it's a nutty world. It certainly is. But I wanted to talk about Auston Matthews. Auston Matthews has been the folks in Toronto, the good folks of Toronto, certainly one of the best fan bases, one of the more knowledgeable fan bases, in my opinion.
Very knowledgeable, yes.
Yeah, they know the game. Yep. They know everything about it. Right. They know the league. They're into it. Now, they're no different than the other fan base. They're pro-Toronto and anti-everyone else, for the most part.
Yep.
But they do know the game, and, they still watch the final, even if the Maple Leafs aren't in it, then they haven't been in it in a very long time, But, they've been chanting for Auston Matthews, MVP, MVP, MVP. And, the guy's been remarkable. Yeah. 21 goals in the last 16 games, and he's just been a beast. He's been a force. He's taking over games. Like the games that Toronto is in, they're all about Auston Matthews now. They really are. Like, you're tuning in and you're just waiting for his next shift. And the only guy that I've seen who's been in a surge like this in a very long time. Now, obviously, Mario and Wayne Gretzky were in those surges quite often in their heyday. But recently, only Alex Ovechkin. He annually would have some streak where he would get, 21 goals in 23 games or, 24 goals in 26 games. That was just something he did. He's very streaky, but most goal scorers they are streaky. Now, the reason I bring that up is you and I have been very pro Shesterkin on the MVP. Now, you've also been quite upfront in saying, look, I work for the Rangers.
Yep.
I do some work for them. So, I'm certainly biased on this. So I'm going to just assume that you're still committed in your mind to Shesterkin being the MVP. But
you're making it. I would back off that a little bit. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's had a little bit of a rough patch.
Okay, well then let's do that. Do you think it's Auston Matthews or do you think it's Shesterkin?
I think at this point it'd be Auston Matthews. It's interesting that Connor McDavid isn't up there, right? Draisaitl isn't in there. Nathan McKinnon is not in that conversation, right?
Well, Auston Matthews for certain is in it. He's always in it, So. But I concentrate on those two. But it's fair to me. Like if you want to say Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, I think that's fine.
We did a show the other day. James Patrick was on the Thursday show with us, and he'd been talking to Dave Tippett. I think he said, and he said that Tippett, when they tracked the scoring chances, Connor McDavid, I think the average was that I believe he said average was that he gets 12 scoring chances a game. Maybe that wasn't the average. Maybe that was one game, but to get 12 scoring chances, sometimes a whole team doesn't get 12 scoring chances. That's not just a shot on net. That's really a chance to score a goal.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I can tell you the Detroit Red Wings don't get 12 scoring chances.
Yeah, I know, right? But I guess my point of that too is Connor McDavid kind of a victim of his own success, that he's so good so often that now we don't. And again, like you said, he's still in the consideration. He's still in that conversation for MVP. But it's like it's almost like, okay, well, we expect him to be that good. So when somebody else is as good as him or better, then they get the nod, right?
That's a real fair comment because I often thought that we used to have with Wayne Gretzky, like the only person that Wayne Gretzky could be compared to, particularly before Mario showed up, was himself. What he had done the previous year, and he was always trying to once he fell from 215 points or 200 points down to 160, everybody goes, well, what's the deal?
Yeah.
So it is really amazing. But, when you compare the Maple Leafs and the Rangers, it's really fascinating. They have almost the
of course, Susan's good, and she's right. Susan is correct. He had a rough patch probably about a week ago, and he's back to playing like he can play. So, yeah. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem. We're gonna remind me to talk about the play that Susan went and saw, because I know I have actually a story about that play.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, I lost where I was.
Well, Carl writes in an interesting question here. He says there's a difference between best player and MVP.
Yeah, of course. They're not even the same. Yeah, it's like it's two different things.
So what is the Hart Trophy? Is it for best player or for MVP?
No. The Hart Trophy is given to the player who's most important to his team, is how the phrasing is. Now that's the equivalent of the NHL's MVP. That's what it is. But that's what the definition of it. I mean, he makes a very valid point. Right. The best player in the league, in my opinion, is always Connor McDavid.
Right.
He just has the most overall talent. He's more dynamic, and but that's a different.
I would have to go. I would back up a little bit. I would have to back up and jump back on the Shesterkin bandwagon then, because I think he's the most valuable player to his team.
Well, that's the point. I'm glad you said that, because that's where I was going. Yeah. When you look at the Rangers versus the Maple Leafs, they have almost an identical record.
Right.
I think Toronto is one game better.
Right.
And they've scored a lot more goals than the Rangers, no doubt. Their offense is a better offense. But what's remarkable to me is they've only given up 36 goals less than the Rangers. And the Maple Leafs goaltending has been hideous.
That's true.
Since December.
Yeah.
Like, I was stunned by that.
Yeah.
Like, they've given up only 30. I think it was 36. I hope I'm right on that.
Look it up.
But that surprised me. I thought I was going to look, and because Shesterkin has been so incredible, and I know he looked human for a period there, but I just thought it would be much. The difference would be greater.
So the Toronto's got a goal differential of plus 56. Rangers is plus 38. So
yeah, but how many goals has
220
for, I think, Toronto, right?
Is that what it is? Yes. Yeah.
And what's the Rangers? 186.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yep.
Yeah, so it's 34. Now that just stunned me. For as good as Shesterkin has been, and for as poorly as the Maple Leafs have been in goal since December,
right?
And how their defense up until recently. I mean, and you were one of the first to say that Giordano, you thought he would make a big difference, and he really has.
Yeah.
He's kind of a glue type defenseman that sort of brings them all together. And I watched them, and I think they just play differently. It's like he sets a different tempo.
Yep. Well, the same way, I remember Barry Beck with the Rangers. I'm not saying they're exactly the same player, but Giordano has got that status, right? He's that leader. He's been around a long time, well respected, great player. Just comes and does his job all the time, And that really, I think that kind of rubs off on everybody else. Okay, this is the way you're supposed to play defense. And I think the same thing is with Barry Beck. I saw it firsthand with him when he came in the lineup. He just had such a presence there, such a leader that he made a difference to everybody else too. So, no, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't ask me, but I haven't changed. I'm still Shesterkin.
Are you still feeling it? Okay.
Yeah, but I think Matthews has really gained.
Yeah.
Because he really is important to his team too. It's a different kind of situation, obviously. But boy, he carries the flag for them, and they look to him, and he's really stepped up his game. So
he's really grown into being much more of a competitor now too. Not unlike Steve Yzerman when he was young, or Mario Lemieux when he was young. They come in, you can see all the talent, but it took them a few years to get to the point where they really were leaders, right? Really competitive guys. Matthews.
Well, it's interesting. And when I say this, it almost double angers fans, but there's no right answer here. I know. And I say this all the time. The difference between a fan and the sports writer is I know there's no right answer.
Right. Yeah.
And a fan thinks there is a right answer.
The fans in Toronto, if they give it to Shesterkin at the end of the year, the fans in Toronto is going to go Shesterkin, because they probably haven't seen him play that much, right? So.
Yeah, well, but it's just there's a difference. Like a fan wants to make a declarative statement, and we do too, but it's only because we have to. And at the back of our minds, we know. Yeah. There are like 3 or 4 answers. It's
who votes on that award? Who votes on that award?
The Vezina?
Yeah, the Hart Trophy.
Oh no, the Hart Trophy is the writers. Yeah,
writers.
Yeah, Vezina is the general managers.
So do you think the Toronto writers then would have a bias towards Matthews?
No, not really. I mean, I actually did a study on that when I was president, and I remember it had to do with the number of writers we had in New York. And back then, writers were kind of revealing their votes, and I would tell, and they do now. Now it's completely transparent, but everyone publishes their votes, and you see that I think. Back then, there was a thing about a guy assuming that Tavares would get all the Islanders' votes, and based on I went around and looked what everybody had said, there were only like 8 or 9. There were 8 or 9 members on the Islanders deal, and he only got two votes.
So what I think happens is sometimes when you get to see a player play all the time, you have a chance to see his flaws too. Maybe you don't see his flaws. Like if I watch Austin Matthews, he's scoring a ton of goals. Maybe he's not playing well defensively. I don't know if that's the case or not, but.
Yeah, and the other thing that's the total myth is that there's a geographic that players out west. I remember somebody made a real big, huge case out of that, and it was they made it the fall after Corey Perry had ended up as MVP.
Right.
And for those who don't know, Corey Perry was playing for the Anaheim Ducks.
Yes.
So all that suggestion that we don't, and in today's modern NHL, like in the 60s, when what was going on the West Coast was simply a rumor, because you just didn't know, or you'd find out about it 48 hours later.
Remember the hockey news was like 2 weeks behind.
We're not there anymore. What happens is instantaneously on Twitter. If you're paying any attention at all, unless you're living in a cave, what's happening with the players out west, and another thing I want to talk to you about, and again, I always like having a player in these type of situations, because I think this will be an interesting one, because to me, I think it's a myth, but maybe I'm wrong on this. And my grandma always taught me, always entertain the possibility that you might be wrong. And again,
no.
Yeah, my grandma always taught me that.
She did. That's right.
Yeah, she did. Always entertain the possibility you might be wrong.
Right.
And it's hard because most of the world thinks they're right.
Yeah,
I'm
in that category.
Yeah. We hear all the time that the guy's playing well because he's in a salary drive. And I bring that up because Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah.
Having an unbelievable season. I mean, plus 51. Were you ever plus 51 in your lifetime?
Plus 30 was the highest I ever was out in LA.
Yeah. Plus 51 just seems ridiculously high.
Yeah.
He's leading the league in even strength points. No Connor McDavid. No Draisaitl.
Wow.
No Austin Matthews.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Leading the league in even strength points. Incredible season. The best season of his career, and he's had some good ones. So I'm reading online, and what's everybody saying? Well, salary drive. He's got he's on, he's got it. He's trying to negotiate a new deal. Of course, he wants the money.
Right.
I think that's nonsense. I really do. Like, I don't think that guys enter a game thinking about, man, I got to be good tonight because I'm trying to get a contract. It just,
I don't. Yeah,
you're
I
just
don't.
trying to be good every day. Like,
I think most guys, if they sign a big contract, want to fulfill the contract. They want to prove that they deserve that contract. I don't. So I don't think. My concern is, well, I look at Jeff Skinner in Buffalo. So I think he shows how good he is in Carolina, goes to Buffalo, shows how good he can be. Then he has a couple off years, I believe I'm correct. And then when his contract year comes up, he has a great year. Now he's fallen back again after he signs that big contract.
he's had a real good year this year. So how do you explain that?
Started a real good year. He had a bad year last year.
He had a good year this year.
Oh, well, okay, but he had a bad year last year.
He did. He had a horrible year.
Right. At the start of the year, didn't he have like 2 goals or something at the start?
Yeah. No, he had a horrible year. I mean, it's really, really bad. Yeah. And you think that's all about money?
I do.
Wow. See, I
don't think most players are like that. And I don't know Johnny Gaudreau. So
I've never met anybody who went to their job thinking about on that particular day how much money he's earning. Now,
right. No, I'll give you that. But I think it's just an overall okay, I've got my contract signed. I don't need to sacrifice anymore. Not all guys are like that. I think
it's hard for me to believe people think like that. Because and I went back and now this has been several years back when because this is not the first year I've had this thought. I went back and looked and it's the number of people who are good in their contract years are about what you expect.
Right.
Some are and some aren't. Like there was no rhyme or reason. Not everybody who was in their contract year, had a good season.
Right.
I just think to me, it's just kind of happenstance. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And I think there are a lot of reasons that people have, poor seasons. They're not wired to be consistent. They don't have the same drive. They're up and down, just like people's emotions. I know you're even every day. You get up and start the day. You're a very positive attitude. But I would argue that the majority of people in North America are pretty uneven on a day-to-day basis in terms of the way they approach things.
Correct. Yes. Everybody has ups and downs, right? It's what you do with those ups and downs. No question.
Yeah. No, that's right. And not everybody lives a true grit lifestyle, where some people don't recognize it. Some people do recognize it, but don't know how to get out. You're dealing with depression issues. There's all sorts of things, the reasons. So, but I don't think that money is it a measure of motivation? Well, certainly it is. I mean, you want to be a millionaire, so that sort of gets you going. But on a day-to-day basis, like when you're entering a game, I don't think Johnny Gaudreau prepares to play the Edmonton Oilers saying, "Man, I'm on a salary drive, man. I gotta tear it up." Got to tear it up today.
I agree. It's not on a day-to-day basis. I think it's just an overall attitude towards the game. It's the work ethic, preparing during the summer, preparing in practices, the sacrifice during each individual game. Yeah, I agree with you. He doesn't go into that game saying, I better play well today. I got a contract going on. Or Jeff Skinner didn't say, I've signed my 8-year deal, so I really don't need to do anything today. But I think it's just an overall attitude approach towards the game.
Well, let me ask you this. So, I did the book with Mike Emmerich, and I remember a particular passage when he got his first job as a broadcaster, and he got 140 a week.
Right.
And he sort of was kicking himself because he realized he didn't do a good job of negotiating.
Right. And
then he walked away, and he kind of shrugged, and he said, I remember thinking, well, really, the joke's on them because I would have done it for nothing.
Yeah, right.
So my question is, people love hockey. Right. You loved hockey.
Yep.
Given all that, I mean, don't you think these guys would play even if they weren't making? Because they did play when they weren't making millions of dollars.
You know what I think it is? I think the vast majority of the players, like you said, would play for free and would want to play. Like Sidney Crosby wants to be a great player.
Right.
Snyder wants to be a great player. Shesterkin wants to be a great player. All those, I think most of all NHL players, particularly the top players, Wayne Gretzky just wanted to be a great player.
Right.
He wanted to make the most amount of money, but he also wanted to be a great player, no matter where he was in his contract cycle. I do think there are some players, and not very many of them. And I think Gaudreau and Skinner are two players that are maybe more like that. I mean, it just seems like, how all of a sudden do you have a bad year like Gaudreau had last year, And then all of a sudden now you have the year you're having now. Is it the coaching difference? Is he playing you more? Is he pushing you more to be a better player? I again, I don't think that's all of it, but I think for those players, I think again, there's some players like that it will affect their game.
Yeah, I mean, well, I do think there was a coaching issue certainly in Buffalo. You know, he certainly gets along better with Granato than he did, you know,
Look
before.
at Phil Kessel. Look at Phil Kessel in his career. I mean, it isn't necessarily tied to contract years. He got along better with Rick Tocchet in Pittsburgh, and he got the most help and get the most out of his game. Right, had some good years. What do you have? 3 good years in Pittsburgh, and now, you know, so you know, coaches can make a difference. You know, Sutter comes in, and Sutter's got that way about him. Maybe he's helped Gaudreau a lot. Maybe, but I get concerned though. I mean, clearly Skinner isn't the player now that he was. Like the body of his work after he signed his contract isn't the same as it was before his contract, right?
Yeah. Although I think for the most part, the majority of players, in my opinion, you know, I just want to be great players. I mean, yeah, they know they're going to get the money, and they're very interested in that. And when it comes time to negotiate a contract, they're paying attention and they're pushing. They're trying to get every dollar, just like we all do. But I don't think they're motivated even primarily by money.
I agree with you. I think the vast majority are just like you said. I remember Mark Messier when he played in Edmonton. He was talking about a contract negotiation. I'll never forget this quote. He said, "I don't worry about the money. I worry about going up and doing my job properly. The money will follow."
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it. Now, even like last year. Okay, so by many people's estimation, Johnny Gaudreau had a terrible season last year. 49 points in 56 games. You know, again, expectations. You know, all of that goes into it. You know, that's not a horrible season.
No, it's not. It's just that he's proven that, like you said, he's proven that he's more.
Yeah, and I would also argue that most people are not consistent year to year. Yeah, we don't. You know, if that was the case, you know, players that are good goal scorers would get 30 every year, and they don't get 30. You know, sometimes they get 24, sometimes they get 36.
Well, look at Chris Kreider right now. I mean, he's doing what everybody thought he could do in the previous seasons in his career.
Right.
Now, is he not playing well enough then? He's all of a sudden learned how to score goals?
And there's also, I mean, you know, some seasons everything goes right, and some seasons everything go wrong.
I was even the same way as a defensive player. There's some games where some seasons you just had a roll. Like the one season where I was like plus, like every time I'm on the ice, I'm getting a plus. You know. So.
My friends all know this because I've talked about it a lot. But I think that luck plays a much bigger role in games than we ever want to give it credit for. You know, a puck hits a stick.
Yep.
You miss a check. You just by you know a foot.
Totally.
And you know you catch your skate in a rut on the ice.
Even goaltenders with guys hitting the post, right? I mean,
yeah, you're 2 inches off, and you know. I always amaze when you watch a game with fans and a guy will come in and he'll rip a shot and it's be wide, and you know the guy raises his hands. He says, "How can you miss the net?" Well, because they're trying to pick a corner that's like this. Right. You know, that's why they missed the net. Yeah. And, you know, if they want to just get it on frame, they'll just hit it right in the goalie because guess what? He's right in the center of that.
Well, it is interesting watching games now, right? Because mistakes happen all the time in the game. You think to yourself, that's an NHL player. He could be doing that. But that's the name of the game. If we didn't have mistakes, nobody would ever score goals, right? They'd just be at center ice.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, you know, in football back when I was a kid, when you get the playbook and they said if everybody does their job on offense, every play will go for a touchdown. But it doesn't say, but if one person on defense does his job, this play's going nowhere. Yeah. You know, so.
Our roving reporter, Susan, so we want to bring up that play too, but also about that Malkin cross-check. Oh, did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, he cross-checked, I can't remember who it was. It was a Nashville player, I think it was. Man, vicious cross-check. He doesn't get suspended for that. Like, that's to me, that's like a 10-gamer for me. It was pretty vicious.
No, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'll go take a look at it afterward.
Now, there's a play that Susan went to that you know something about? Is it what it was?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just a story that I had. I forgot now the name of it. It's terrible. But anyway, it's a baseball play, and it's really a great play. Like at one point, the accountant, who's kind of the centerpiece, he doesn't know anything about baseball, and he ends up the accountant of a baseball team. He gives us great impassioned speech about what he loves about baseball, and the speech is just so fun because he said what he liked about baseball was how fair it was, and he goes, everybody gets 3 strikes. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much money you're making, what ethnic persuasion. Take me out. That's right. No matter what your ethnic persuasion is, it doesn't matter anything about your religion, your race, your creed. Everybody gets 3 chances. Like he calls it the most fair sport, and it's really a great speech. But anyway, what's interesting about this play is that a lot of it is done in the nude. You're in a locker room, a lot of male nudity. Now,
So
I took my family every year for 18 years to New York. We saw 5 plays, and this was a baseball play. And so when my kids were in their early teens, we said, well, we'll go to the baseball play. So we go in, and as we're walking in, a lady stops us and she goes, "Do you know what this play is about?" And I said, "Baseball." And she said, "Yeah, but there's nudity, and we're not prudish."
Right.
And so we just shrugged and think, well, how bad could it be? Well, it was just full male nudity the whole time. I don't know if it still is now, but it was when we saw it, several years ago on Broadway.
So let me get this straight. Our friend and confidant Susan Brooks went to a nude play.
Oh, well, yeah. Have you ever seen Broadway plays where there's nudity?
I've never seen that nude play. I guess I got to go more.
Yeah. So anyway, but it was quite interesting. My kids, there weren't many kids in that play, and here we are watching this play. Now, my kids were teens, but still, if we'd have known, I don't know, would we have done it? In hindsight, but
Susan,
yeah. It's a terrific play, though.
Right.
It really is really well written.
So everybody, everybody's nude?
Well, it's not about nudity. Right. It's about, guys in a dressing room, but it's real.
Okay.
So the guys are nude.
All right.
There's just scenes where they're just walking around. They're sitting there talking.
So it's not like the whole play is nudity. It's just that there's at times when
but a lot of it is. It's not like that you see one nude scene.
Right.
There's multiple.
I just see that's it's an eye opener for me. I did not know that.
Yeah. So anyway, but I will never forget that, and we still talk about it today. My family, they're all adults, and we laugh about the time Dad took us to a nude play. And I had 2 daughters, and so it was totally different. And then we tell stories about it too. Do you know who Anne Heche is, the actress? Yeah. Well, we saw a play with her in it, and we buy half-price tickets at the half-price thing, and for that particular day, we got like front row. And Anne Heche has this scene where she comes and sits at the edge of the stage, and she just sits down and dangles her feet over the side. Well, my son was right in the chair where she's dangling her feet. So here he is, he might have been 10, 11, and all of a sudden Anne Heche, who's a very pretty woman, is sitting there and dangling her feet over the stage, right, and basically in my son's lap. So,
And how old was he again?
He must have been 10.
Was he get all embarrassed?
Yeah, he was a little embarrassed. Yeah, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. I don't, it was a long time ago, but we've had some play experiences to say the least. So.
Hey, we'll go from nudity to. I want to ask your opinion real quick on that quarterback that got killed for the Washington.
I covered him. Now, as late in my career when some of the for lack of a better term, some of the editors were trying to protect me. We were downsizing, and hockey does not get the same readership as football. Football is gigantic. And, football has, 50, 100 times the readership of hockey. It's really hard to describe. It goes football, then it goes the NBA, and then baseball. And baseball is a little bit farther down, and then it goes hockey, just in terms of general readership. Now, some stories that you write in hockey do better because they have a general audience. But, they were trying to protect me. I'd been there a long time. So they said, can you cover Ohio State, which is only 3 hours from my home? And that'll give you some football as well, which will improve your numbers. So for 2 seasons, I covered Ohio State, and Haskins was quarterback of one of those. And what a good guy he was.
And apparently he's got all kinds of records there too at Ohio State.
Oh,
right?
yeah. He was trained. Well, he had a 50 touchdown season when I was covering him. And he was just a good guy and, fun to talk to. And, it was.
In the story, again, it's really his death is really all that matters. It's not, but the story's coming out to get hit by a dump truck trying to cross a major highway.
Yeah, I still have not seen any explanation of why he was walking at 6:30, in the morning.
6:30 in the morning. Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Was he up? I mean, you walk at 6:30 in the morning. Maybe he was up training. I don't know.
Yeah, but apparently he crossed a major highway. Like
he did. Yeah, that's what it said. But I mean, this just such a horrible story. You reach the age now, and I was just talking to a fellow who was my age, and I was saying, yeah, now I see somebody who's 70, and I think he's died so young, because I'm up there. Sure. But with Dwayne Haskins at 25, really, he had so much life in front of him, and he hadn't hit his. Hadn't found his place yet in the NFL, but no one had given up on him. Like he's still just 25 years old. So
it's a great video of him. I guess when he's like 7 years old, he went and visited Ohio State and said that he was going to play there. That was pretty.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I mean that was a really big deal, and he was a prototype pro. I mean, a drop back quarterback. I mean, we see quarterbacks in college who are not going to be pro quarterbacks because the reason they're so dominant in college is, they scramble or they run a wishbone style offense, and you're just not going to run that quarterback that much. Now, in today's NFL, you like a running quarterback because they can make something out of nothing when there's not anything there. Now, Haskins was not a runner, and in that regard, that kind of hurt him a little bit in the pro game because they like the guys like Mahomes. Whenever there's trouble, can take off. So
I agree. All right, big topic of the day. Did you see the Sunday meal?
I did not. Nope, sure didn't. Jeez,
we went to Thailand. We made some got a ground turkey recipe, and went to H Mart, the Asian store, and got all the Thai spices and everything, a lot of ginger, garlic, and even found they had Thai basil was in it as well. The first time I knew it was a different kind of basil. Ooh, very.
Was it a turkey pad Thai or?
No, it was ground turkey. It was more like you get this turkey chili sauce. I mean, the Thai chili sauce.
Oh yeah, it's pretty standard.
Sriracha in there and makes it nice. And I made up a little bit of another rice with it. So it was good.
Do they even have turkeys in Thailand?
You know what? What? It's amazing you just asked that question. It's our friend Bill Kontrediak just asked that.
Yeah, let's put it this way. I've eaten at a lot of Thai restaurants. I've never seen turkey on them.
Right. So I wanted to health it up a little bit. So I just might make sure I looked up recipes.
Would chicken really do it as well?
It could. Yes, it could.
Yeah, but you always got to be careful. I know my longtime doctor, did some studies on chickens and didn't like the antibiotics they were putting in them. That. So.
Yeah, the popular chicken at Costco is that $5 chicken you get, but people say that it's not that healthy for you.
Yeah. Well, even beyond that, since I'm Mr. Salt these days, they just kind of load it up. I had a cookout at my son-in-law's yesterday. He goes, "Hey, Pops, you want to come over for a cookout?" And I said, "Well, maybe." And my wife was on the phone. She goes, "Can you look at those brats that you're cooking? How much sodium is in it?" And it was 880 in one brat.
Oh, I know, right?
And he said, "I'll throw you on some salmon, Pops." I said, "Thanks."
Nice. So, there you go. That's a good sign. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good, but it was fun. It was my grandson Archer's all important 4th birthday.
Oh. He
got some red soccer cleats from his grandmother, who was a long-time soccer coach. Red, yeah, he's going to be flamboyant. He's got good speed. Okay, so he can wear red. He's got good speed. He can't wear red soccer shoes unless you're fast. So
that's true. Yeah. And how many grandkids do you have?
I have 5. Yeah.
5.
So I got 6. I have a 6th on the way though.
Oh,
it's key. It's key as well because it's in with my son and his wife, and of course their name is Alan, and that could if we can get a son.
Okay.
Because I have 4 granddaughters and 1 grandson, but the grandson is with my daughter, whose name is not Alan.
Oh, so you maintain the legacy. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so this could be a legacy pick. Yeah.
Right. So my 2 sons so far have made the decision not to have children. One's married, one has a girlfriend. As of now, they're not having children. That doesn't mean that can't change, but so
yeah,
the Laidlaw legacy may die.
Well, boy, that's a hard one. So,
but then I'm going to live forever, so I guess that really doesn't matter. So.
Well, my wife is planning on 100. So
is she going to do it 100? Okay.
Yeah, that's her goal.
What happens when she gets to 100 and she's still going strong? I mean,
well, then I think she'll just extend it. That's what athletes do.
Yeah, that's true. They retire and then they come back.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, you can't come back from death. You gotta
Not yet. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, we'll keep going. Yeah, for sure.
Other things we can do now. I didn't think we would. You think the cell phones and all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's. I think we can't give this show up without talking about the Vegas Golden Knights. I talked before about that 8-game spread, which I thought was crucial for them. I thought they could go 8-0, probably would go 7-1, and could live with 6-2. Right. And they're 6-1 in those first 7. So they could end up 6-2 or 7-1. They've needed every one of those because Dallas is still playing. I think Dallas is 7-3 in their last 10, and they've got that wild card. And now the games in hand for Dallas is now at 2.
Actually, 1. So games played. Vegas plays 73. Dallas plays 72 now.
Okay. So it's down to 1 now, and they're 2 points up though. They won last night. That's right. Yeah, they won last night, so they're 2 points up. But look at where LA is. So Vegas could get right in there with LA too.
Oh, that's true. That's right.
Yeah.
And LA's played more games. They played 74 games too. And LA over the last 10 hasn't been that great. 4-4.
No. And Vancouver, their record is deceiving because they've had a lot of 1-point gains. Yeah. They've what are they 3-2-5 or 2-3-5?
5-2-3 in the last 10. They won their last 2.
Okay, so they've gotten 13 points out of 20 in the last 20.
See, in Nashville too. Nashville's played 72 games. They've got 87 points. So they're actually they're ahead of LA, but not the same division. Huh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, that's the only race we got. The East is all settled. Big win. I never thought I would say this, but a big win for Tampa Bay over Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason it is they're 6-9 in their last 15. They're just not playing well. I've watched them. They've given before that Buffalo win, which was a shutout. They had given up 15 goals in their last 3 games. They just haven't looked the same. I've seen them play, and my theory is they're a little bit bored. They're just not.
So what happens with Pittsburgh? Let's assume that Malkin's going to get suspended. When you see that, I would think. And again, I'm saying 10. Maybe it's not 10. Let's say he gets 5 games. But then again, Pittsburgh's used to not having Malkin in the lineup, right? They still
that's true.
Pretty well. Yeah.
They actually, with Crosby's numbers are always better when Malkin is out, and Malkin's is always better.
Right. Do players secretly have a preference as to which team they play in the first round? Yes, they do. They would never say it to anybody. It's really a taboo thing. Maybe a couple of players may get together privately and say it. Coaches may say it in private meetings, but teams, I think as individual players, you feel you play better against certain teams, and as a team, you play better against certain teams as well. Although, remember, was it 2 years ago when the Rangers really had Carolina's number? They really played well against Carolina, and then the playoffs they got taken out in the first round against Carolina. So,
historically, I know players do feel like that, and the matchup matters to them. Yeah. There's sometimes there's a guy on the other team that just rubs you the wrong way. You just don't want to play against him. And there's a particular matchup they like, or they like going against this guy. Yep. But those matchups, they always say throw the record books away, and it's true. Yeah, how many times have we been fooled when one team, as Tom mentioned with the Carolina and the Rangers, how well they played during the regular season, and it's turned out that in the postseason, it's just the game is so different in the postseason.
and you get on a roll. Certain guys are playing better at the playoff
Right.
time. John Druce and Chris Kontos in the past, those kind of guys that maybe nobody really counted on. So everybody's looking at the lineups and they're saying, okay, well, this team should beat that team based on the way everybody's played. Well, then some guy plays great all of a sudden, you didn't count on that, or somebody plays bad. Same thing when you hear all these things, like they use stats like over the last 10 times that each team's played in the playoffs. Well, those 10 times before don't matter because different players, different season. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think playoffs could be fantastic. Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too. And again, this is my theory, and not everybody agrees with it. But I think when you look of a playoff matchup, you have to look at it in terms of this, and this is how I do it.
Mhm.
If they played that series 10 times
Right.
over the next 2 months,
Right.
how many times would each team win? Because it's never 10-0.
Right.
Like, I've not seen, well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't seen very many playoff series where I thought there's no way if you replayed that 10 times that a team would win even one.
Like you think back to when Tampa lost 4 straight to Columbus, 3 years ago that was? Whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what I would have said going into that is Columbus has a chance to win that series 2 out of 10 series, or 20% of the time. Now, I've been talking in this way for years, and now, in Vegas, they actually have odds and percentages for that. They always list, for example, what the odds are of winning that series. Like, they would give a team a 20% chance or a 15% chance.
See, I would like to disagree with you on that, but I can't. I have to agree with you. I agree with that totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and historically, it's kind of worked out that way. Where especially in hockey. In the NBA, you don't get as many upsets. In the NHL, upsets are commonplace.
I don't even think you consider it an upset, really. Maybe like the Tampa loss to Columbus was an upset.
Yeah.
But a lot of the teams are so tight. The talent level,
right.
The coaching, it's close.
But you see that even in the NFL games, again, because I wrote some stuff after I lost my job at USA Today. I did some betting things. And during the course of a game, you can bet, and the percentages shift. Like if a team takes a 14-0 lead, you can go, and now you can still bet on that team because the team that's down 14-0 is considered only a 15 or an 8% chance or whatever it is, chance of winning, and you get odds accordingly. Mm-hmm. So you can bet on that. And it's all mathematics, just based on history of results through the years of how many times a team has been down 14-0 and come back and so forth. So they've got it all figured out, like what your really chances. And I think that's the way you should always look at a playoff series. Like, if Tampa's going to play Florida, I think that's a 6-4 or no better than a 7-3.
For Florida?
Probably this year, I would say it's either 7-3 or 6-4 Florida.
Ooh, see, I'd be closer to 50% on that one because I think defending champ, right?
I would have, except that I've watched a lot of Florida and a lot of Tampa lately. And right now, Florida's playing great. Tampa isn't. So let's say happen. But normally you'd have that as a 5-5.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but, right now, Florida, I don't know. Have you watched them lately?
I haven't seen them lately. No, I saw them there. They're offensively, they're good, though. Oh, man.
They're scoring 4.25 games. They're the only team in the league. They're scoring more than a goal per game better than they're giving up.
And they really are playing that way, too. They move the puck around. Oh, man, they're unbelievable.
Yeah. No, they're really playing well. I was a little concerned about their defense, but, they've sort of gotten it together.
That's one of those things like they say, well, you need to have a good power play in the playoffs. You need to have a good penalty kill in the playoffs. You need to have good defense. Well, if you're outscoring the team 5-4 all the time, you're still winning the game. I mean, they need four goals, but.
You remember the year that Boston got into the final against Vancouver and they had no power play whatsoever?
Yes.
Yeah, who'd they trade for at the trade deadline?
I remember that. Yeah.
Caberlet. Wasn't it Caberlet?
Caberlet, yes. Yeah, they're right.
Yeah, they just had no power play.
Good call. That's nice, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
Hey, what? If we get done here today, I've got to go get online, see if I can find some more nude Broadway shows.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
You're going to take a day to go to a nude Broadway show?
I'll do a report for you, too,
yeah. Anyway, we appreciate you listening. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll talk more about nudity and
nude cooking.
Yeah, if you want to read about hockey, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and also HockeyBuzz.com.
And if you want to listen to the radio version of this show again, you can go to 365, radio.co at 365. Let me do that again. If you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. See you, buddy, on Wednesday.